Okay.
Introduce yourself and say where you are right now.
Hi, I'm Peter Tuddenham, and I'm the past president of the International Society for the System Sciences last year, 2019. And I am now with you here in the Green Bank Observatory in West Virginia, a unique place with radio silence, a 10-mile radius with some massive big eyes to the sky listening for whispers here.
And looking back, way back, maybe not into the beginnings of the universe, but in the beginnings of your universe,
Yes.
what are your earliest memories of when you started thinking in what you might think of as systems? Do you have an early memory?
Well, that's a difficult question, and I certainly have been thinking about that a lot over the past 3 or 4 years as I've become, involved in the ISSS work. And I think that it comes down to personal experience, and it's not so much about, systems as a defined discipline or defined area of inquiry. It was more about a feeling of oneness with the universe, and I think, and how everything is connected, and feeling, really embedded in nature, I suppose, or a part of nature. And the best example that I can recall was, I'm not quite sure exactly how old I was, but 6 maybe, or 7, my grandmother gave us a rowing boat, and I was fortunate to go rowing one Sunday morning on Christchurch Harbour in Dorset, and there was nobody else there, and it was completely flat, like a mill pond, no wind, and the sun was coming up, and the Norman Priory 3 miles away was chiming its bells because it was Easter Sunday morning, and I just had this sort of feeling of smallness and bigness at the same time. It was sort of an interesting paradox that at least that's my recollection now, almost 60 years later of that experience. And so that's the best answer I think I can provide, really. Yeah.
And here we are at Green Bank, where smallness and bigness is very much a part of what goes on here, right?
Yeah. It's fascinating to come here and to see what's going on, and listening for whispers from the universe. And the whispers, of course, are very small. And I was at an ocean conference last week, and we had a speaker talking about how we can now get mesoscale observations of ocean currents, really small currents in the Atlantic, for example, on a mesoscale, really small, and how significant they are to the overall patterns of ocean current. Whereas in the past it's been rather I would say crude, but it's been large-scale observations, right? But now they can get down to meso, and they're really understanding how important the smallness is and the bigness, right, and the impact. So there's another example of understanding relationships across scale. Fascinating.
So whoever an average person is, and I'm not sure what an average person is, if they said, well, what does system science have to do with me? What would you say?
Well, I've been developing with friends and colleagues this idea of systems literacy. Not the first person to mention it, but I think we need to have more systems literacy in the world. And I, for a number of reasons, have sort of come to reflect that we need to think about ourselves. If you think about yourselves as a viable system, we're a living being and we're working, right? I mean, we've all got faults and we've all got problems, but we've got all kinds of bits and pieces all connected up, working, so I can speak, hopefully, intelligently. And so if you think about yourself as a system, you're not going to learn who you are by looking at just your heart or just your lungs or your brain. You're going to understand who you are by your wholeness, by you sitting there and me sitting here. And so the extent that I can understand myself as a whole viable system is a good starting point, and understand how one thing connects to another and affects you as a total person and how you are in the world. So that's where I'm headed with this. And I think coupled, again, we've done this work on ocean literacy and earth science literacy and then climate literacy and atmospheric literacy and then network literacy, and we're talking about data literacy here and so on. So I think, you know, you've got to talk about self in relation to your natural world and look at the systems in natural worlds. So that's another way that I think we should think about the system.
I think that's enough.
I think that's enough.
That's great. Thank you.